Hello everyone, this is Apollo, and today I'd like to talk to you about something that many of us have experienced before but maybe don't quite understand, the Uncanny Valley. Now if you're on my channel, then most of you are probably somewhat familiar with the term Uncanny Valley, but for those unfamiliar, the concept of the Uncanny Valley can be broken down like this. Imagine you have two sides of a plane. One side we will call normal, and the other we will refer to as abnormal. Now imagine on the normal side there sits just a regular dude. We'll call him Bob. And on the abnormal side sits some kind of terrifying monster. You could pick any of your favorite horror movie creatures to occupy this space, so long as it is very clearly non-human. I will use my favorite example, the Xenomorph from Alien, and I'll name him Jeff for simplicity. What a nice guy. Now, while Jeff may be scary on his own, who wouldn't be scared of a giant, acidic, brain-blasting monkey cockroach? He isn't exactly creepy, at least not by appearance alone. And Bob? Look at him. Sure, he may be a serial killer in disguise lusting for blood, but if you just saw him out on the street, you probably wouldn't bat an eye. The Uncanny Valley lies between these two extremes of normal and horrifying or scary. It is when something appears almost normal, but is just off in some way. There's a great video by Vsauce that details the concept of the Uncanny Valley itself in a more general way that I highly recommend you check out if you haven't already. It's some great stuff. I'll link it in the description. So now that we have a basic understanding of what the Uncanny Valley is and how it contributes to a feeling of creepiness, I would like to pose a question to you all. Why? Why do we find things creepy? And more specifically, why do we find things that appear human but aren't the most creepy? Now, of course, this is a bit of a generalization, as not everybody is prone to the same fears as everyone else, but in general, most people experience this particular form of fear. So why is that? Let's get into it. Humans are inherently social animals. We evolved and have existed in a state for most of our history where, if you did not have the assistance and support of a group, you were unlikely to survive. Our social capabilities, along with our massive intellect, of course, are two of the main reasons that humanity has been able to achieve the things that we have, and have been able to build our society to such a point that group reliance has become less and less of a factor on individual survival. However, our ability to work within a group or social community is predicated on one very important thing: trust. You have to be able to trust your fellow man to not bash your brains in with a rock to steal your Halloween candy, and you have to trust the people you interact with to not try and screw you over for their own benefit. Likewise, for the purposes of this thesis, you have to trust that the person you are working with for survival is not in fact a terrifying alien parasite wearing the skin of your friend to appear normal so that they can get close enough to assimilate you into their gooey collective mass, like some kind of Rice Krispie treat from hell. Oh yeah, you know where I'm going with this. In the movie The Thing, starring everybody's favorite generic action hero, Kurt Russell, a team of researchers in Antarctica are attacked by an alien parasite disease thing, which has the capability to take over the host's body and wear it as a sort of flesh suit to try and blend in with everyone else. Now, I know what you're thinking. This movie obviously stole its concept from Among Us, the freaking imposters. I know that probably just made a few of you very upset, but hey, don't blame me. Blame the movie. Alright, all jokes aside, what does this have to do with the Uncanny Valley? Well, aside from being the very definition of something looking human, even though it isn't, the characters in The Thing are forced to choose who they trust carefully, as any one of them might be a threat to the others. Throughout the movie, the group becomes more and more divided as infighting gets progressively worse, all of this, of course, playing into the creature's favor. Because of our evolutionary incentive to rely on and trust one another, the idea that someone may not be who they appear to be undermines a very basic and important part of our built-in survival mechanisms. And while the creature in The Thing may not appear outwardly as anything but human until it reveals itself, the idea of someone being a monster in disguise still triggers our threat response because of this need for trust. This very concept is seen throughout many different media, both horror and not, to unnerve the audience. Movies such as The Thing or Invasion of the Body Snatchers are great examples of this. If we want to look into a more recent example, the movie Smile, which released in September of 2022, and was to my utter disappointment, not based on the Smile tapes made by Patoriku here on YouTube, is another great source to draw from. In the movie, the main character is stalked by some kind of demon or entity, which invades her mind and makes her see things that are not really there. Specifically, it creates hallucinations of people that she knows from real life, but warps them. As per the movie's namesake, they always appear with a disturbing, unnatural smile plastered on their face. Ugh. Taking on the appearance of someone that the victim knows is particularly insidious, and once again is a demonstration on how much our social need for trust plays into the power of the Uncanny Valley. The face that the entity wears is of someone you think you know, someone you're close with, maybe a lover or a family member, and the idea that the thing we are seeing is wrong or unnatural in some way triggers that fear response every time. And speaking of things looking wrong, when most people think of the Uncanny Valley, a big part of the terror comes from the twisted image of humanity that is often presented within horror media. See, my previous point from Smile is a good example of this. That face still freaks me out a little bit. The imperfect reflection presented in these movies and other media often follow a distortion of the physical human form. Maybe the character moves in an unnatural or janky way. Maybe their proportions aren't quite right, or maybe their features are somehow hidden. In any and every case, something is just off, unusual. That off-putting creepy feeling can also be as a result of something less physical, though. It can come from things such as behaviors or the way that a character is presented. Have you ever been out in public and observed someone for a little while and just felt like they were wrong somehow? There's nothing particularly unusual about their physical appearance, but the way they act or carry themselves just makes you uncomfortable. Probably a lot of us have, right? This is also an effect of the Uncanny Valley, and once again, it goes back to our physiological need to determine trust. Odd behavior or actions can cause someone to appear threatening or dangerous. It's the classic creepy old dude in a white van watching children. It is the combination of these things that make for effective and terrifying horror. Imagine a creepy old stalker van guy, except he also looks like this. Exactly. The question that naturally comes to mind when considering all this information is why? Why are we afraid of things that look or act like the rest of us, but not quite? Sure, it has to do with our social dynamics and trust, but there must be more to it, right? And this, friends, is the question that can drag us down a very interesting and terrifying rabbit hole. Could it be that something existed in our past that would cause us to all have the same inherent terror of uncanniness? Could it be that humanity used to, or maybe still, live alongside something that mimicked us in our behavior, but was in fact something else? Something dangerous? Maybe it's nothing more than an odd quirk of our evolutionary history, or maybe it's something else entirely. And if that were true, then maybe it never went away. Thank you all for watching the video. Please let me know what you think, and if you have any suggestions for future content, I would love to hear them. This is, of course, the first video I've put up on my channel, so any and all feedback is incredibly appreciated, and I hope you all enjoyed. If you'd like, you could, leave me a comment, leave me a like, maybe hit that little subscribe button. It would really help me out, and I would be eternally grateful. But that's all. Sleep well tonight, friends.